We all know that caregiving is hard work, and caregiving can feel like such a struggle when we're caregiving for our aging parents, a spouse, grandparents. Caregiving involves so much of the unexpected, and if you're a 24/7 caregiver, others just don't understand what you go through on a daily basis. You may get a phone call from work and have to leave and go take care of an aging parent. You may not get any sleep at night because you're caregiving. I'm Pamela Wilson. For the past 20 years, I have been on call 24/7, helping caregivers and aging adults solve problems. I know what it feels like to be a 24/7 caregiver. Today, I help caregivers through courses like my stay-at-home course, my Power of Attorney course, and others that you will find on my website, which is PamelaDWilson.com. But let's talk about how caregivers can move caregiving situations forward and feel less stress, regain balance, and regain some control in caregiving. And we'll also look at 5 questions to ask yourself to help move your caregiving situation ahead. The caregivers that I work with in my courses many times feel a little stuck because they've tried to find solutions to problems in caregiving. The difficulty with caregiving is there's no life training. It happens unexpectedly. As caregivers, we accept the responsibility because we love our loved ones. We want to provide care. But all of that love does not mean that caregiving isn't stressful, that we don't get exhausted, that there aren't days when we want to throw up our hands and say, oh, I wish I wasn't a caregiver. That's the reality of caregiving, and it's what we want to be able to talk about as caregivers. So many people on the outside judge caregivers saying, oh, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. And by the way, it's your responsibility. Well, we know that, but they have no idea what we're going through because maybe they're a caregiver in the early stage. Maybe their loved ones yet don't need a great deal of care. You may be in that situation, but I can tell you, caregiving doesn't get easier with time. Aging loved ones don't get healthier. I wish I could tell you that it gets easier, that health improves. Sometimes we can maintain health. There are so many things that we can do to gain stability in caregiving situations, and that's what we talk about in my caregiving courses. But let's talk about gaps. So in your caregiving situation, is there a gap between where you are today and where you would like to be? Most of us have those kind of gaps in life and in any kind of situation. It could be in our job, could be in our personal relationships, but in caregiving, a caregiving gap definitely exists. So I help caregivers in my courses look at that gap, and sometimes caregivers find it difficult to realistically assess their situation. I was like that in my family more than 20 years ago. My parents have both been passed away, but before they passed away, long before I became a caregiving expert and an advocate, we were unrealistic. My mother had so many health problems. My father had a few health problems, but was older than my mother. We automatically made the assumption that he would pass away first. As my father said, I have no idea what we were thinking because it didn't turn out that way. We were smart. I have a college education. We couldn't see in our own family what was happening with our parents. And we had no idea what to do with all of my mother's health issues. I had a sister who was a nurse, and even with her help, we had no idea what we were doing. I look back now and we made so many mistakes. This is partly how I help caregivers because over the past 20 years, helping thousands of clients in thousands of client situations, I know what happens in caregiving. I can tell you that today you probably have problems that you're not even aware of. So many times in caregiving also, we experience caregiving stress. And it's because we're trying to do everything. If you're a female caregiver, you never want to say no. You want to just make it all work. If you're a male caregiver, you're probably better at setting caregiving over here because you look at caregiving as a project or a task or something to be done. Women are just more emotionally involved in caregiving. That's who we are. But caregiving stress, it affects the brain. It affects our ability to think clearly, to make good decisions, which many times is the reason that we don't seek out caregiving help. We don't seek caregiving support because we think we can do it all. We think we can solve our own problems. How many times in your lifetime have you had a problem that was just difficult to solve? And it doesn't really matter whatever it was, but you kept doing the same thing over and over again. You were hoping for a different result, but that's not the way that it worked out. Caregiving is similar, and even to a greater extent, because there are so many things that we as family caregivers just don't know. So the courses help caregivers assess where we are versus where we want to be, and it helps close the gap. If you're a caregiver and you're thinking, oh, I can hang on, I can do it. What I'll tell you is that I have had caregivers who have held on to my business card for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, sometimes a year. They eventually show up in my office saying, oh, Pamela, I should have been here so much sooner, but I thought I could do it myself. I thought I could solve the caregiving problems. I thought I could work it out within my family, and I discovered I can't. I need your help. That is why I have online caregiving courses to make it easy for caregivers to get help. You don't even have to leave your house. All you need is a computer and an internet connection that you have if you are watching this video. So let's go through 5 questions to help you move your caregiving situation forward. The first one is, what does your caregiving situation look like today? And in a perfect world, what does your caregiving situation look like? How do you get from A to Z? That is what we evaluate in the course. I help you gain a realistic picture of your caregiving situation and where you are, where you want to be. Then we look at what it takes to get there, if changes will have to be made, if involving other people in your family is part of improving the situation. If you're thinking, oh, I can still do it myself, I don't need help. Question 2, how much longer are you willing to be in your current situation before you're willing to do anything? How much worse does it have to get? And I use the example of a caregiving wake-up call, and I'll talk about my mom. My mom had heart disease most of her life. She smoked cigarettes. She was overweight. The doctor kept telling her, her name was Rose, just like the roses in this video, Rosie, you need to exercise, lose some weight, give up the cigarettes. She smoked a pack a day. My mom was not motivated. She didn't want to do it because back then cigarettes were pretty cool. This was in the 40s, 50s, 60s. But one day she goes to the doctor and he sends her for a test, and he said, Rosie, I'm going to call you after you take this test. So doctor calls my mom, Rosie, guess where you're going tomorrow? You're going to the emergency room and the hospital. And by the way, the veins, the arteries in your heart, they're so clogged. Your heart is shutting down. You will die if you don't have quadruple bypass surgery. It took that to get my mother's attention, to help her to be motivated to stop smoking, to exercise, to lose weight. It was very hard on her. And that surgery affected her for the rest of her life. She had it at age 60. She passed away at age 69 from bladder cancer from all of those years of cigarette smoking. It's so hard in our lives to predict how one chronic disease affects another, how heart disease can affect diabetes, cancer, how high blood pressure can result in dementia and Alzheimer's 5, 10, 15 years down the road. How do I know all this? It's because I've been involved in caregiving for more than 20 years. I know things that happen in caregiving situations that you cannot even predict. Number 3 question, are you stuck in a comfortable place where you're saying, oh, I'm thinking about making a change, but I think I'll just wait. I'll wait it out. Comfort versus taking a course or getting help. It's the difference between the costs in caregiving. Not only the personal costs to your health, to your well-being, but financial costs. The longer you wait to get help, the longer you wait to learn about your caregiving situation and to become more informed, the more it costs you. You will need help earlier. You'll need caregiving help earlier. So that's a cost to your family. You may need to pay for in-home caregivers to help you stay at home when, if you would have done a little bit of preventative work earlier, you could have delayed the cost or totally avoided the cost. It may cost you by having to move to a care community or a nursing home. Very expensive. Care is expensive today. In-home caregivers, $25 to $30 an hour. Nursing home, $300 to $500 a day depending on where you live. It's expensive. Wouldn't you rather take a caregiving course for a fraction of that cost, feel better, have a better caregiving situation, and avoid all of the unnecessary? But it's up to you. You want to be stuck in a comfortable place, or do you want to improve your caregiving situation? Number 4, you're not going to do anything. With your current situation, how long is it going to take for it to improve, and do you even know how to make it improve? Many caregivers don't. I can tell you from my experience, it's much better to get the help. And number 5 is, how do you get there? You get there through caregiving support. You get there through my courses. I help caregivers learn how to assess their own situation. Many caregivers don't even know what information to look at, what questions to ask, what they should be looking at. I help you assess the situation, determine the gaps, close the gaps, create a plan to move forward. I'm Pamela Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. My stay-at-home course has a link to it called DignityClarityStability.com. Aging adults want dignity, they want to be treated with dignity, and they deserve dignity. As caregivers and aging adults, we want stability. We don't want the ongoing, unexpected caregiving situations, the ups and downs, the roller coaster rides, the turmoil. We want better family caregiving situations. We want stable situations. And we want clarity in decision making. PamelaDWilson.com is my website. My courses, my information are there. And if you're looking for my stay-at-home course, DignityClarityStability.com. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Please share this video with others. There are so many other caregivers out there and aging adults who are looking for help and they have no idea where to go. They have no idea that online caregiving support even exists. I appreciate you taking this time with me. I will see you in another video.